Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So my name's Jordan Discigilo. Uh, I did my capstone presentation on finding vulnerabilities in cloud environments. So to start off the presentation, I wanted to talk about what is cloud. And cloud computing is the delivery of on-demand computing services, such as different applications or machines. This is accomplished by pay-as-you-go use of resources from a vendor such as Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. Using one of these vendors allows companies to not be forced to purchase and maintain computer resources locally. This opens up an avenue of offsite data backup, deployment of virtual machines at whim, as well as running applications outside of their own infrastructure. So one may ask why companies are moving to cloud. A cloud hosted desktop provides you with scalable computing power while minimizing IT requirements and physical data storage. This, in the long term, provides you with significant savings. Using cloud keeps users connected no matter where they work with anytime, anywhere access, as well as allowing them access to files anytime, anywhere using any device. That means there's no more risk of files being stored on any computer, which is important for security, as when you back up data off-site, it decreases the risk of hackers, viruses, and ransomware affecting you and your business's infrastructure. Cloud-based services can be deployed within just an hour or a few days rather than weeks, months, or years. It can take to strategically plan, buy, build, and implement an internal IT infrastructure with internal personnel. Cloud computing enables employees situated in various locations to collaborate easily by providing simultaneous syncing, working, and sharing documents and records in real time. Cloud computing helps increase the collaboration efficiency of employees, and after migrating to the cloud, you no longer need to worry about power requirements, space considerations, expensive hardware, and software updates, which essentially moves your company from focusing on IT stuff to just generating revenue. So moving to cloud brings new issues. So since you are hosting things on the cloud, you have an indirect control of a service that you're providing. So for example, a bank has a website. Instead of it being hosted internally and physically, running it on the cloud, they don't have direct control of what's going on it. If you have a loss of credentials for your cloud environment, that can allow any user to deploy and use anything on the cloud without the consent of someone higher up having to say, yes, you can do that. Data deletion is another concern, because while it may be deleted on your end and what you can see, there is an unknown of how the cloud service provider deletes things. If the cloud service provider is compromised, an attacker that compromised the provider has access to anything and everything on their end. So that is another risk you also take moving to the cloud. And another big issue is an insider attack, where an employee that has gone quote unquote rogue decides to maybe implement something on one of your services or changes passwords, basically going against what would be best for the company to benefit maybe an outside organization. So the configuration for my project this summer, I decided to use Amazon Web Services, or Amazon AWS, DVWA, which is also known as the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, and my own instance of Kali Linux. So I used Amazon Web Services to deploy and host the DVWA, and Kali Linux was how I went about finding the vulnerabilities. Here is an example of one of my vulnerability attempts finding on the DVWA. So on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, it might be a little hard to see actually, but in this console here, I am running a brute force attack using a program called wfuzz, and what wfuzz takes in is a password list. So I downloaded the top 1,000 most common passwords, and I put them into a text file and had that run through and try every single password in that file to try and allow me to gain login access. And on the right hand side, you can see my successful attempt of logging in, where on the left, the difference between the left and the right hand is that the left hand, this is all zeros, and I didn't return anything back, which means I didn't get a response, so I didn't get to log in. Where on the right hand side, I have a response, and I underlined this one's 4,280 characters, and it's password. So the password for the account was password, unfortunately. It's another exploit I attempted. So on the left, you can see that there's a tab for pinging a device on the website, and this is to see if something is online. And I noticed from this red output here that this is similar to what a Linux operating system would normally return if you ran the ping command in a terminal window on a Linux machine. So I tested this search box a couple times to see if other commands would be ran. And after playing around, I used another software called SOCAT, which essentially on the Linux machine, I opened up a connection on port 1337 as a joke, but I opened up the connection in order to listen for an incoming connection. And I ran another command on the website that allowed me to send a request to my Kali Linux machine to try and connect to it. And what this allowed me to do is what is called a reverse shell. And essentially, that means I have access to the underlying machine that is running my website. So the website was set up on a Linux machine and is being hosted on the cloud by a Linux machine, but I have now just gained access to that Linux machine by this command being able to be run. So why these different attacks are a problem for cloud? Well, why the attacks are a problem in general is, in general, brute forcing is just trying every possible password. In theory, there's no limit to the number of attempts a brute force attack will have, because at the end of the day, a brute force attack will always be successful, since the rules for acceptable passwords must be publicly known. However, the downside is that as the length of the password increases, the longer the time it takes for you to brute force something. So that's why it's important to keep your passwords as complex as possible. Another attacks, cross-site scripting is another important attack, but I didn't show it in here. Cross-site scripting is a form of injection problem in which malicious scripts are injected into trusted websites. Cross-site scripting attacks occur when an attacker uses a web application, such as our website, to send malicious code in the form of a browser-side script to a different end user. Flaws that allow these attacks to succeed are quite widespread and occur anywhere in a web application using input from a user in the output without validating or encoding it. An attacker can use cross-site scripting to send a malicious script to an unsuspecting user. The end user's browser has no way to know that the script should not be trusted because if you were logging onto your bank's website, anything that was running on that website you would generally trust. But if cross-site scripting was a possibility on that website and an attacker did that, they would be able to steal any credentials or information that was sent via cookies or session tokens and other sensitive information that is retained by your browser from that site. Cross-site scripting can be stored in a database, which could possibly make it permanent. So if certain information is stored on the website's database where it gathers information from, the cross-site scripting attack could be persistent and stay there for its entirety and would run each and every time someone visited the website unless the entire database was reset or removed. Command injection attacks are possible because of the lack of correct input data validation, which can be manipulated by an attacker via forms, cookies, HTTP headers, or etc. Command injection is what I showed on my second example, where I could gain access to the underlying machine, and that could eventually lead someone to finding more information, maybe finding other services that are being ran, and eventually just taking their information another step further about what's going on behind the scenes. A SQL injection attack consists of an insertion or an injection of a SQL query via the input data from the client to the application. So kind of similar to a command injection attack, except using a specific language called SQL. A successful SQL injection can exploit and can read sensitive data from databases, modify database data, execute administrative operations on the database, such as like shutting it down or removing contents, and can recover the content of a file present on the file system. And in some cases, issue commands to the operating system. SQL injection attacks are a type of injection attack in which SQL commands are injected into the data plane input in order to effectively execute predefined SQL commands. And a SQL injection attack is also known as an SQLI. Some future additions I would like to add to my project would be more devices on the cloud that are connected together. So maybe have my own database that is set up separately between two applications that communicate with each other and use that known knowledge to exploit that in a specific way. I would like to add an SIEM, or a security information and event management system, which essentially takes all the logs of all of the devices on the network and puts them all into one place, and you can search accordingly. I'd also like to add an IDS, or an intrusion detection system, that basically has pre-built in alerts that will alert you to, hey, this thing in registry was changed, or it's weird that this user is making this command, or this command is usually a warning of this type of attack, and implement one of those to exploit and practice both ends of attacking and defense. I'd also like to implement an incident response like workup. So in the event my IDS does set something off, have pre-built measures of how I would respond to that situation and the next steps I would need to take to make sure my cloud infrastructure is safe and clear. I also would like to look more into exploring Linux logs and learn Linux-based incident response. It's a little bit different it's a lot different from Windows and places to look, and just to be able to understand that a little bit more. And to fully increase my workflow of my project, I'd like to be able to automate my different hacking attempts with just a single file. So currently I have 2 to 4 files that do the different attacks, and I would like a way to merge all of them into one and possibly do the research ahead of time for me of things I need to look for and important keys that I need to know. And that is my presentation.
Thanks, Jordan. Meg, if I go first, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So Jordan, this sort of scenario that you've described, which I will admit was mostly over my head, but it's attack, counterattack, attack, offense and defense. It reminds me of a radio comedian in the 50s when I was growing up in England, by the name of Tony Hancock, who in one skit he had been a criminal, and he wanted to go legit, and he came around to the police station to see if he could become a policeman. And they said, but Mr. Hancock, you've got this long list of crimes that you've committed. And his response was, well, yeah, of course, but now I know how it's done, so I can catch the other people who are doing it. And so, you know, it's a fine line, right, between hacking and counter-hacking. So right. I suppose you know exactly what hackers know, and hackers know probably what you know. So it becomes a moral decision which side to go on, right? I mean, is that pretty much the way it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people is definitely, you know, especially if you're like a younger kid, like you start learning stuff and you kind of just want to experiment further and further with things, just to limit tests. There's just the world's at your hands when you can get past something you're not. It's like stealing a cookie from the cookie jar. You know, in that case, it's not really morally wrong, but you're told you're not supposed to be doing it. But in this specific case, I set this up myself to be exploited, so it's ethical hacking just for information.
Well, yeah. Your project is ethical, but what you have learned from your project could lead to unethical behavior, right? I mean, you're essentially definitely practicing, and I'm not saying, not accusing you of anything, but what you have learned could be put to ill use. So, but that aside, and I'm assuming that you did learn a lot from this project. That's correct, right? I mean, you didn't know a lot of this stuff beforehand. I mean, you had an inkling on it, but you didn't know the details. Okay, so you made a couple of assumptions right at the beginning, and I'm sure I told you when we first talked that this is not a topic that I'm very familiar with. You talk, computer scientists talk about the cloud like, well, of course everybody knows what that is. I don't understand it. I mean, I just don't understand what it is. You described some characteristics of it and some aspects of it, but you didn't actually say what it is. I mean, you said how it works, but
yep.
But and you intimated that somebody's running it or doing it, but who is that somebody?
Whatever provider you choose, they have probably a humongous server room, air conditioned, everything that is speaking with however you access whatever you want online, and it communicates with that. And it's just a server room with near supercomputers that are provisioned accordingly.
Okay, so I that part I understand. But when people talk about the cloud, they talk about the cloud. They don't talk about clouds. So is there are there multiple organizations which have clouds, and you can go to provider A as opposed to provider B?
Yeah, there's AWS. I think I also mentioned Microsoft Azure. That is another cloud provider. And there's also called Google Cloud.
Okay. So if I wanted to take advantage of this this technology, and leaving aside the flaws or the possible dangers that you've identified, my first decision, having decided to do that, would be to pick between these various providers, right?
Yep.
And how would I do that? I mean, what would be my criteria?
Honestly, pricing would probably be your biggest criteria. They each offer different pricings for different solutions.
Okay, so they're not all identical. They each have different characteristics. Okay, so yep. If I was in the market, if I was a company and I wanted to upload my my data to the cloud, I would need to do some research into the various providers. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like little other things like my experience with Azure has been they have a built-in detection system, and they have like their own alert system for certain things. Like someone opened up a new instance of Google Chrome that isn't normal to that user's behavior or something, and they'll have an alert that pops up on your screen. So I think what you're also gambling into is different perks of using different cloud platforms as well, not just pricing.
I see. I see. Did you have a mentor for this project, or were you on your own in this?
I was mostly alone, but if I needed guidance, my one buddy is a professional infrastructure engineer. So, but he was kind of busy when I was doing a lot of it. But if I needed help, he could have helped me.
You talked about future editions in the slide that's still up. Is this something that so this is something you're going to pursue further? I mean, is this something that you're going to make a career of?
Yes, in my a company that I have a job offer for is already using the cloud. So I took this project to just kind of gateway me into what's going to be in my future and give me more of an understanding of what's to come.
So my last question is, on my laptop, I don't know why this is not really germane, but as long as you're here and I can ask you the question, I don't know why I have files which are on my laptop and on the cloud. And now the way you put it, I'm not supposed to have them on my laptop. I'm supposed to just have them on the cloud. I mean, is that normal? Is that right?
You're able to do both.
Okay. But so, your point is, if my data was something that somebody might want to get their hands on, which I don't know why it would be, but if it were, I would not want to store those files on my computer. I would be content and satisfied to have it all up on the cloud. Or do most people have it in both places?
So I think companies are moving it more toward the cloud, because having it on the cloud has less personal risk or user risk. So like a phishing email, or I got sent one the other day from RIT for someone's account got stolen, right? Someone in your company gets their email hacked, whatever, sends an email out. If say they sent something out that was a ransomware or something, if your files are only stored on your computer, all your stuff is gone. You don't have anything. They sent the email to everyone. You thought it was a legitimate email. You downloaded the ransomware. Everyone's computer is destroyed on the network. Everyone there. But if you move it to the cloud, that ransomware, unless specifically uploaded by somebody, doesn't exist, and your data there is safe.
But if I have the files on my computer and on the cloud, and the ransomware comes into my computer, it automatically goes up to the cloud too, right?
No.
What's to stop it? If everything that I'm doing for my company is going up to the cloud, what's to stop it? Why would that not work?
Well, generally you do manual data backups, but I guess if you had an automatic backup, it could potentially work.
I see. All right. I could ask you lots more questions, but my time is up, as they say in the Congress. So Meg, it's your turn.
Great, thank you. Really interesting, Jordan. A couple of questions / statements. So I envision that you are probably going to use all these new skills and competencies as a force for good.
Yes.
It sounds like that's what you'll do in your new role, and I'd love to hear more about that. Specifically, would you say human beings are the weakest link in terms of security risk?
I would say more times than not, yes.
Right.
Because if a software isn't up to date, it's not the software's fault. They have a new version out. It's the administrator's fault for not updating the software.
Right.
Or
phishing emails. Creating a password that's password.
Yeah. That's a
which I don't have. Right. Okay. So I'm curious, an alum, we had a historic donation made to RIT about 3.5 years ago from Austin McCord. He's a SOIS alum and he founded Datto. I'm curious if you're familiar with Datto, DATTO, which is a cybersecurity and cloud-based company.
I've definitely heard of it. I'm not super familiar with it, but I have heard of it.
Okay, so I would really encourage you, just with the connections that we would have. I mean, it sounds like you've landed your first job, which is awesome. But I would encourage you just to see the number of RIT alums that work there, the number of SOIS alums alone. But those would be great connections for you. And I don't know if you've built out your LinkedIn profile, but connecting with people from Datto. So Datto actually went public about 2 years ago, which is how Austin made $50 million gift to RIT. Oh. We got a portion of that gift, which allows us, SOIS, to support young entrepreneurs. Austin started Datto as a sophomore in college out of his dorm room. And it went public and he's doing, as you can imagine, quite well. And he's building new companies now. But I would really encourage you to maybe connect with some of those alums, especially since really, it sounds like your skill set and your passion, if you plan to continue this project, are right in the same vein as what they do and why they were founded. So that would be interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about your new job and the company and what it is you're going to be doing?
Sure. So my upcoming job is with Bank of New York Mellon. Originally, I was going to be on their cyber cloud team, as I interned with them the previous summer, and that was the team I worked on. But I guess a couple of things changed, so now I'm on their identity and access management team, where I basically control the access of each individual user and what they should be able to have access to, what they shouldn't be able to, and make sure nothing oversteps any boundaries. So there's no backdoor ways, I guess.
Okay, and this is for clients, or is this for staff?
This is staff.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So just managing the security within the company.
Yeah.
Okay. How big is it? How big is the company?
Not too sure.
And where will you be working? Will you be entirely remote?
I think we start remote. However, I think someone said, I think in September we will go to 3-day in person. So you go to work you go to the city Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you work from home Mondays and Fridays.
So will you be in Manhattan? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, Manhattan.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So where are you from, Manhattan, or have you moved, or?
I live a little bit north of the city,
Okay.
like an hour, 15 minutes away. So there's a train nearby that I can take to commute.
Great.
And that's what I'll end up doing.
Great. Well, congratulations. That sounds like a great opportunity. And you feel okay about the shift in the team you're going to be working on? I mean, I would say one thing is obviously you have a skill set that means you can be very flexible.
Yeah, I'm unsure about the team. We'll see what happens, but it is my foot in the door, which is important. So, I'm fine with anything coming out of college.
Good for you. That's a great attitude to have. Well, I really enjoyed that, and I learned a lot. Stephen, I would say one thing to think about is that you're using the cloud all the time and you don't even realize it. So like your phone, for example, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but every time you take a picture, Stephen, your photos are typically, if you power down your phone and power it back up, are backed to the cloud. So if you drop your phone in the canal when you're running, all your pictures should be saved on the cloud. So Verizon has a cloud, program or whatever, provider you use. So is that correct, Jordan?
Yeah, iPhones have a built-in feature, iCloud, that you have to sign up with an iCloud account. They let you store stuff on there. I think Verizon does have a new cloud thing, but I haven't really looked into it too much.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question about that, Meg, but I won't take Paola's time up. So
yeah.
I think, Jordan, thank you very much, Jordan. That was a great presentation. And Paola, it's your turn.
You got it.
You're not going to talk about computing, are you?
No, not at all. Not even close.
Okay.
It says Jordan is still sharing. Thank you. Okay. Okay. All right, so hello everyone, welcome. I did my capstone surrounding an experiential marketing activation campaign between Cash App and Electric Daisy Carnival, both of whom I will talk briefly about, so you know exactly who I'm talking about and what it is I'm doing. Here is a brief overview of how I'm going to go about this. So I'm going to explain exactly what is experiential marketing, especially what it looks like in 2021. A brief business-to-business analysis about Cash App and Electric Daisy Carnival, business-to-customer analysis about marketing insights for both of these entities. And then I'll go into my creation of the Cash App experience, which is an interactive experience, the desired outcomes for this campaign and the measured outcomes for this campaign. So very briefly, what is experiential marketing? Essentially, it pushes past the traditional marketing mix of product, place, price, promotion. It really focuses on creating an experience between a consumer and a brand. Some types of experiential marketing kind of fall under this umbrella. If marketing is the huge umbrella of this, what creates a value for a company, experiential marketing is a bit smaller in that sense. Some examples could be events. So festivals, shows, dinners, conferences, even investor meetings all fall under this category of experiential marketing. Installations are a bit more physical. Most of them occupy physical space. So sometimes you'll see this empty store in a mall suddenly has a pop-up of some obscure brand as an attempt to kind of garner your attention. Sometimes you'll see these installations like more statues, kind of more artistic implementations of this in public spaces, and especially with COVID-19. Experiential marketing is not limited to physical and face-to-face interactions or physical objects. It can be done digitally as well. It is all about creating an experience and creating a story around a product or brand. So this is a brief example of an event-focused experiential marketing campaign. So in 2017, I believe, Cheetos, the Cheetos brand, created Cheetos House of Flaming Hot, which was a campaign where they brought in influencers and beauty influencers, fashion icons from Instagram to New York City Fashion Week to create looks based on their look and brand. So these bright yellows, these bright reds, all were used to create these wacky, cool looks that ended up on the New York City runway. And you might be asking yourself, what does that have to do with Cheetos or snacks? And the answer is nothing at all. The point is to create a story around a product. You're creating something that doesn't exist and you're really trying to link them together. So this is another example of an experiential marketing campaign. OGX is actually a hair care brand that promotes self-love, natural products, kind of that area of the market. And they created this retro love yourself car wash that anybody in downtown LA could pull up to for free, get your car washed, and take pictures at these like very cool heart-shaped installations, very love yourself, very bright and fun. And finally, for a more digital experiential campaign, Canada Goose, which is an apparel brand that does mostly jackets, outdoor wear, did a virtual reality experience where you could take these avatars across California, across the different climates of California to experience them in all the way north to south. So it does not have to be a physical face-to-face interaction. It's just about creating an experience. It's about creating value for your brand. So why create an experience? Well, nowadays, every single company is going to push price, performance, service. Every single major company that exists tries to aim for all three of those. So when every single company is promoting the same thing, it really becomes a monotonous kind of noise in your ear. Traditional marketing techniques have been floundering in the past decade or so. It takes approximately 0.2 seconds for your finger to go from the bottom of your phone screen to the top, which is essentially how much time you have as a marketer to garner someone's attention on any given day. I'm sure everyone has had their emails flooded with different promotions, sales, updates from different companies. 97% of those never get clicked. So an experience, an experiential marketing campaign is really meant to drive the sales funnel. It's meant to make people stop what they're doing and be aware of a brand or what they're doing. Just getting that attention and that awareness is very key in this whole ordeal. Obviously, the sales funnel drive awareness, drive interest. Oh, let's check this out. What is this brand? What are they about? Eventually drive a customer to an action, some kind of decision making. Maybe it's just following the brand on social media. Maybe it's attending an event. Maybe it's taking a picture with an installation, but you want to drive some kind of decision in this process. And eventually, once you're in the mind's eye of this customer, hopefully the goal is to push them to purchase whatever it is you're selling, your service, product, lifestyle, brand, whatever it may be. In my research, I really like this quote: every major brand in the world has adopted experiential marketing, with previous marketing tactics performing supportive roles. So instead of we're going to do this ad campaign, it's we're going to do this experiential marketing campaign, and these ads are going to support those instead. It's a really big shift that's happening right now. So Cash App and Electric Daisy Carnival, who are they? What are they? So Electric Daisy Carnival is a 3-day music festival that happens in Las Vegas, Nevada. It essentially takes over Las Vegas for 3 entire days, if you can believe that. It is a huge campus. There are 8 stages, essentially, all with different kinds of offbeat themes. There is carnival rides, and sprinkled throughout the carnival rides and the music and the bright lights and everything in between, you see some company booths really supporting their brand by linking these 2 customer journeys. So especially in this one in 2019, there was a lot of Red Bull booths sprinkled throughout the festival, kind of supporting your 3 days of craziness and supporting your energy in that way. EDC is owned by Insomniac, which was a ragtag group of friends who decided to create their own music festival. And they've kind of stuck with their core values from then. They're fueled by positivity, love, care, connection above all else, built on inclusivity, creativity in everything they do, and taking risk and breaking rules. It really is an offbeat, kind of wacky experience for anybody to take a part of. And they really try to incorporate that with everything they do and every marketing tactic they have. So what is Cash App then? Cash App is a peer-to-peer mobile app that drives peer-to-peer interactions and sharing money. Essentially, you have a cash tag, and as long as it is linked to a bank account, you can get anyone else's cash tag and send money between you 2. So you go out to dinner, your friend pays the bill, you say, oh, I'll Cash App you some money. And that is how that peer-to-peer interaction works. Cash App is owned by Square, which really revolutionized small business ownership with their little Square card reader that you put in the bottom of your phone. So small businesses now have access to any kind of credit card transactions. And if Square is the parent of Cash App, Square is more of this, it's a little more business oriented, a little more white collar, and Cash App is a little bit offbeat, a little bit weird with their branding, very simplistic interface, but really drives their peer-to-peer interactions through the use of their cash card. So you send money back and forth. You can apply for a cash card, which you can use in any kind of interactions. They're promoting their use of stocks. They're promoting their use of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, direct deposit to whatever bank you're linked to as well. Their ecosystem is rather simple, but it works. So some of Square Incorporated and Cash App core values include that everyone should participate and thrive in the economy. It really is prevalent with Square when they came out with these readers that were very integral to small businesses. Make commerce easy, shorten the distance between having an idea and making a living from it. I think that one is the most important out of all of them because of the gig economy. A lot of the times, millennials nowadays have a full-time gig and they have a part-time gig. Sometimes it's, I have a full-time and then I serve on the weekends. Or sometimes it's, yep, I work at this place, but on the weekends I do music, I do photography, and that's my gig, that's what I do. Cash App really supports small businesses in that way. And by providing tools to enrich and empower anyone. So these are some of Cash App's previous marketing tactics. So in 2017, they came out with a hashtag Cash App Friday, which essentially was these celebrities, influencers coming out and just saying, hey, drop your cash tag and maybe I'll send a few of my followers some money for the weekend. And that went completely viral. It drove their marketing up 60% increase in usage over just 2 years of that tactic. 2018 hashtag Cash App That Money also a very viral hashtag that happened, where someone on TikTok made a song based on Cash App, and they used hashtag Cash App that money as their kind of as their marketing for their song. And eventually Cash App reached out to them, and they collaborated and gave this independent creator a brand deal, and essentially took over the TikTok platform with just this song. In 2020, Cash by Cash App came out, which is what I'm focusing my experience on. And what Cash by Cash App is a clothing brand, essentially, which is wild because, of course, clothing has nothing to do with peer-to-peer money interactions. It's about creating some kind of story about it. So it's weird, it's wacky colors, bright neons, really meant to garner attention more than anything. So why do these two work together? So Electric Daisy Carnival kind of draws in these people who are charismatic, they're game changers, they're socialites, they're go-getters, they're kind of out of the box thinkers. And I think that really aligns with Cash App's marketing persona, as well as that kind of like offbeat sibling to Square Incorporated. They really do have similar beats to them. So this is an example of a buyer persona that might participate in both Electric Daisy Carnival and Cash App itself. They use Instagram over Twitter. They're not much of a Facebook person, but they are in tune. They're baristas, so maybe they don't have a ton of disposable income, but maybe they save up once a year to go to this 3-day festival just to escape everyday life, right? Most of their shopping is done online, and they are an ambivert. They enjoy their time alone, but also really enjoy their time with friends. Some of their interests, they love to travel when they have the time and they have the funds. They like photography in their spare time. And of course, they like electric dance music, which would just fit Electric Daisy Carnival just perfectly. So my proposal is that Cash App attend EDC, not only as a sponsor, but as a physical entity there, and create an experience that draws in this buyer persona to them. At this booth at EDC, it would be a larger booth. It'd be 30 by 15 feet, which is on the larger side of these booths that attend EDC. The goal is to have charging stations there so they can participate in this experience, regardless of the time of day, because many photos are going to be taken and a lot of batteries are going to be drained. A check-in desk where people can go in and apply for this contest, which I'll tell you about the details in just a moment. A mannequin display showing Cash App and their different apparel right there on display, and an LED screen describing this experience and how you can get a part in this hashtag Find the Cash experience. So this is an example of a mock-up of a 3D booth design. So ideally that corner would be an LED screen that would show a continuous video over and over for anybody walking by about the rules of this scavenger hunt and how you can win. The kind of giant S in the corner is supposed to be more of like an Instagrammable moment for anybody walking by. And the mannequins are just on full display there for anyone to see what kind of swag they can get by participating. The proposed customer journey, we're trying to create a story here. We're trying to create an experience. Awareness. We want people to stop, take notice of the booth. We want festival goers to take a moment out of their busy day of many music lineups to just stop by and see what's up with the Cash App booth? What's going on here, you know? We want them to consider maybe participating in this scavenger hunt And then we want them to ultimately decide to, if not participate in the scavenger hunt, then maybe purchase some of the swag items that are already on display there if they don't have the time to do so. For the scavenger hunt, the hashtag find the cache, there's 4 simple rules. There's 3 cache signs across this EDC campus somewhere. You take a selfie with these 3 cache signs across the campus. Bring the selfies back to the booth, and then you can win an official Cache by Cash App swag. Spin a wheel, get some kind of swag, and ultimately be entered in a bigger sweepstakes hashtag find the cache contest. So here are some examples of what the scavenger hunt would look like. So I kind of used really key locations that Electric Daisy Carnival always has every year. So every year they have this giant Ferris wheel that you can go on. And by going on this Ferris wheel and you look down, and one of these many, many lights is in the shape of a cache sign, you take a selfie with that there. That's one of the pictures you bring back to the booth. The second one, that is called Daisy Lane. It is one of the main entrances to the carnival itself. So my idea was to have a giant cache sign on the floor. These aren't supposed to be difficult to find at all, but you do have to put in the work to get there. So in participating in EDC as just the festival, they can also participate in this hashtag find the cache scavenger hunt as well. With this experience, we always want to drive brand touch points. So booth design, we always want to incorporate Instagrammable moments. We always want to incorporate real key places that people are going to take pictures, and that's going to be shown somewhere. We want fantastic customer service, of course, in that what I discussed earlier, price, performance, service. Service is always a driving factor underneath your marketing campaign. So friendly faces, fast service, always important. Interactivity, a charging lounge at the actual booth would encourage people to participate, because not only are you spending time at the actual booth, now your phone's charged and you're like, oh, I can always come back here. I can always go get those pictures, come back, and then I can recharge once I'm here. That's pretty cool. And also, obviously, the actual product. Not only are we encouraging people to use Cash App as the product was intended, but we're also driving awareness of this kind of off-key part of it, which is their clothing brand as well. At Electric Daisy Carnival in 2019, there was an estimated 400,000 people between the 3 days of this music festival. So it's incredible potential for many, many booth visitors as well. Here's an example of a hashtag find the cache post that someone might make. You win some kind of swag, you take a picture, just won my swag at the Cash App booth, you should check it out. Doesn't even have to say check it out. We just want to drive some Instagram social media presence through this. Some desired outcomes for this campaign, obviously engagement with both the booth, the scavenger hunt, the website, all of those. We would really want to drive that engagement. We want to drive awareness, not only about Cash App, but the Cash App clothing line. The clothing line essentially cements a brand look to Cash App, which is very important nowadays, because now people will think of Cash App and exactly what their design looks like, and kind of the same way people think of the Cheetos clothing line and what that means to them as well. And eventually want to drive action as well. So measured outcomes for this would be return on engagement, measured traffic at shop.cash.com, which is where you can buy all of these apparel items, and the usage of hashtag find the cache on any social media platform as well. And return on engagement just really means that the cost of this production really justifies a means. So their 2017 campaign where they paid influencers to promote the hashtag Cash App Friday, it was estimated that for every $20 they spent, they got 500 unique audience engagements. And really we want to drive towards that goal. That ends up being less than a cent a person per engagement. So that is my Cash App experience at Electric Daisy Carnival, and I will definitely open it up for questions.
So Paola, that was much too much fun. I think you're obviously enjoying this far too much. You got to get a little bit more serious. I have a, you say, so I'm not clear. You occasionally you talked about we, but so is this, did you design a campaign, essentially an ad campaign theoretically, or do you work for Cash App?
This is completely theoretical.
This is theoretical, okay. So this is something you could take to Cash App and say, look, you know, you want to hire me. This is what I can do.
Right.
Okay, all right. I wasn't clear about that. I thought I learned a whole lot from your presentation. There was one phrase in particular, being a linguist, I like the phrase, I don't know, I don't remember the context, relentless positivity. That's a good, I guess that's a good thing. It's hard to imagine what relentless positivity is, but I suppose it's theoretically possible. And I'd never heard the word ambivert before, so I like that too. That's something that, you know, bears a lot of thinking about. Okay, so it was a great presentation. I guess I could say I get it. It's marketing in the 21st century, or the second decade of the 21st century, I guess. I'm pretty speechless. I thought that was I was fascinated by the whole thing. I'm gonna turn it right over to Meg. I don't think I have any questions.
So, I thought that was fantastic. First off, I think it's a really interesting and very insightful marriage of two different companies. And I think that you are just absolutely spot on with using that as an example of experiential marketing. And I also think that your slides and just the way in which you presented is so reflective of experiential marketing and that you chose. So I think that you aligned everything so well. I mean, I just thought every slide was engaging, and every slide, I think you also set it up really nicely for us, explaining what experiential marketing is, and then saying, okay, here's an example of how I could use my skills and competencies to marriage two companies and put together a proposal for experiential marketing. So I thought that was fantastic. I would love, have you considered ways in which you could reach out to either company, to either the music festival or to Cash App to propose something like this? Because
I have no idea how.
Best example. I'm sorry, I talked over you. What'd you say?
I would have no idea how to even approach them like that.
Right. So, you know, I think just even researching the music festival itself, and seeing if there are just some lower level points of contact, I just think would be really interesting. So, you know, I would consider doing a little bit of research and seeing what you could do, you know, to have a conversation with someone. Do you know, is there an overarching organization that plans these music festivals? You know, oftentimes they are planned by bigger organizations. Or are they, it sounds like they're a little bit of a boutique experience, so maybe they do everything themselves.
Insomniac specifically is more of a boutique because they are just one group that does a ton of different music festivals. EDC was just their, like, it was their baby that really grew. but they do a lot more than just that one. So that would be kind of the parent company to go to, if anything, for that side of the music festival market, at least.
Right.
So if I could interject, so the venue is the festival, but the company that you're really focused on is the core of this is Cash App, right? So
Correct.
I assume that you're familiar with. Do you use Cash App?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. And have you been to the festival?
I have not.
Okay.
I've had a lot of people who have, though.
So you knew about Insomniacs though, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this approach, why did you pick Cash App? Well, you could have picked anybody, right?
Exactly. Yes. I could have picked anything. When I was like brainstorming, I literally sat down with my friends and I was like, what brands do we use every single day? And I just went for a list of a ton of brands that I use every single day. Cash App was on that list. And I was like, I wonder what Cash App's marketing looks like. You know, what is their branding? What do their aesthetics look like? And when I started looking into the different companies, I found that Cash App's kind of really offbeat. I didn't include their Instagram on here, but their entire Instagram is very experimental. It is very bright colors, a lot of graphic design choices in that. So I was like, oh, they're a little like less. When I was like experiencing this, I was like, they're a little less, mature, I would say, than their older
Traditional,
where Incorporated is. So I was like, where would they fit in?
So they must be located in some place, right? And so yeah. What you might want to think about, following up on what Mick said, you might approach them cold. I mean, find out what their marketing arm is, and just to say who you are and why you did this, and say, I did this project, and I thought maybe you'd be interested in it. I mean, you could do it cold, even if you don't know anybody there. I mean, this is really good. I mean, it's really professional. I think, if I can imagine if I was in their marketing department and this came through the mail, it would get my attention.
For sure. Yeah, I'll look into it.
Well, and I would add too, one thing that I think really makes this very robust is that you really did the research in terms of thinking about, the music festivals and Cash App, what their core values are and what their mission is. And you made a marriage of the two that works. You didn't pick a more traditional company that would look at EDC and go, that's not a thing. So I think that's really valuable. That's what marketing organizations, that's what really skilled professionals are doing, right? They're looking at what is the persona, and are we looking at the personas that really would are similar. So I think that's fantastic. So if you're not looking, obviously Stephen and I are like pie in the sky. We want you to, this to either company and have them be like, oh my God, Paola, you're so brilliant. Come work for us. But assuming that's not an option, what are your next steps? This is obviously a fabulous example of your skill set, and you can, put that in your LinkedIn profile or in your portfolio. But what are your next steps to demonstrate these so that you can get your job?
My next steps is to kind of build out my portfolio a little more. If there's one thing that I would like to really focus on, I'm confident in the value bringing and being able to make the story happen between two companies. But I would like to focus a little more on the design, perhaps, like the 3D design aspects of the booth. I would love to kind of build out that part of my portfolio as well.
Right.
That's kind of my next steps. And really put that into my LinkedIn, kind of create a cohesive brand of myself as a marketer.
Well, and I think it'll be really important. I would encourage you to think about the language that you put in LinkedIn also. And, you know, from 101, we've talked about this before, but really to portray yourself as someone that can marry two companies for unique partnerships, unique collaborations, because I think that's really demonstrated here in such a professional and an insightful level. So I encourage you to, you know, to think about that. The other question is just for my own understanding. So I'm a Venmo person. What's the difference between Venmo and Cash App, and are there benefits?
They are essentially, they provide us the same service. They provide peer-to-peer interactions. Venmo is a little more social. So in the sense that Venmo is directly connected to Facebook. So those two entities kind of exist very close together, while Cash App kind of focuses, it's weird, but Cash App focuses more on Twitter and Instagram. So those two very different demographics exist for those two very different peer-to-peer companies, but they do the exact same thing. If anything, Cash App is a little more in tune with the kind of up and coming Gen Z economy, where they're more focused on cryptocurrencies. They're really pushing the cryptocurrency initiatives right now. They are really pushing stocks through Cash App as very casual investing as well. Venmo doesn't really do that. Venmo is purely peer-to-peer transactions, but both of them you can do peer-to-peer. Both of them you can save money in those actual accounts and take them out when you need. But I'm unsure if Venmo has a cash card either. That was a really valuable part that Cash App does have, where it's essentially a debit card that is linked to this account that you have.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the cryptocurrency and investing. I know that your generation is very interested in investing smaller amounts of money than maybe my generation or Stephen's would think about, in terms of, oh, I'm going to go invest money. I need to have 100 grand to start off to invest. You know, I think that they're really looking at ways that your generation can invest small amounts, but early in their, you know, in the wealth building stage. So really interesting and nice job answering questions. So great job.
Thank you. I will stop sharing.
Anything else from you?
No, I think at this point, as you will no doubt say if I don't say it, we have to remind both of you that your papers are due in the next few days, 2 papers, and we look forward to reading them. Both of you did a fabulous job, learned a lot, and lots of luck. I assume that you're both graduating now, and we would love to hear from you when you've landed that first job and how it's going, and all the best. Otherwise, all the best, and for the remainder of the summer. Meg?
Yeah, great job, both of you. Jordan, good luck. Keep us posted on your new team placement, and Paola, what, you know, the fabulous things that are going to be in store for you, for sure.
Thank you.
I'll definitely let you know.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.